So I'm sitting in class today in sociology, and we start talking about inequality, which, that should be expected because the class itself revolves around social inequality. And anyone who watches this channel or has watched my political leaning videos knows that in most scenarios I tend to be more liberal than conservative. There are some exceptions to that, but for the most part I am pretty liberal. And going to this class is, to me, like a whole class wherein you sit and get slapped in the face with ridiculous statistics and knowledge by a PETA member who's tied to a tree to save it from sludge being poured by Monsanto's CEO and George W. Bush himself while making out. It's gross. I mean, that's how I feel in that class. That's how much liberalness is hitting me in the goddamn face. I mean, it's like Rachel Maddow sitting on every corner, which that's not fair. I tend to like Rachel Maddow, but she is very liberal. All this to say, this is a very freaking liberal class. They make no bones about the fact, or rather the TA is an instructor, that they're against the establishment and such, very left-leaning, and that's fine. To each their own. I really don't care. I figure that everybody always gets up in arms when their teachers have a different opinion on something, but for me, the way I see it is if your opinion on something is founded in reality, then you really shouldn't be afraid of being exposed to new stimuli, because if it is a sound opinion, it should hold up regardless of what that instructor says. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, or maybe it's both here and there, but I'm not going to touch on either of those things. So, what makes me want to talk about this is today the instructor was asking for people to yell out things that irritated them in regard to inequality. And one girl yelled out and said that it irritated her how a man could sleep with a lot of women and be known as a player, as a stud, as a pimp, as an all-around awesome guy who gets high fives on the reg, and a girl who sleeps with a lot of guys is known as a slutty whore bitch who, is just putting it out there on the street for anyone to pick up and was just a loose slut. And that's what, and I'm saying slut like a bad meaning there, not like slut, like I call you guys sluts endearingly, I'm talking about slut with like the negative connotations in this instance. And she said, that's not fair, I don't like that. I think that is a perfect example of inequality in the sexual realm. And I expected, after hearing that, because I've heard this argument before in that statement, and I was looking at my professor, and I was like, oh man, this girl just opened a can of whoop-ass on herself, because this instructor is about to explain, he's about to break down why what she said is wrong, because I've heard people argue about this before, and I was ready to hear it, because I thought I saw my professor's eye just a little smirk, like, ooh, I got her now, even though I suppose that'd be a poor attitude for a professor to have. But lo and behold, she stopped talking and stopped complaining about that, and he just said, you know what, I agree, that's something we all should think about. And then he went on to the next question, and that was it. That was all he said about it. And to me, that was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if you're going to take the time to talk about social inequality, don't be a retard and only talk about social inequality in regard to women and minorities. Why would you do that? That seems pretty intellectually dishonest to me. To me, that seems silly. What I wanted to say, but I can't say because it's a huge lecture hall, is that, yes, that is the way that it logically makes sense. It's logical to think of a man who sleeps with a lot of women as a stud, and to think of a woman who sleeps with a lot of men as not a stud. I'm not saying that it's logical to think of her as a slut. Not at all. Don't take that away from this video. Don't think that. If women want to sleep with a lot of men, go for it. I don't give a shit. You're sexually free to do whatever you want. All I'm saying is that it's not the same thing, like this girl was trying to equate. And by no means am I saying that women who sleep with a lot of men are inherently sluts. They can do whatever they want. It's their decision. To each their own. I think I say that like twice a video. 3 times. To each their own. 4 times in this vid. Wow. All I'm saying is that you shouldn't draw false comparisons. Now, let's think about this from an evolutionary perspective. All right? Now, we're humans. We're apes. Women get their choice of mate. Now, you're maybe thinking, whoa, Taylor, that's not how it works. Men get to ask women on dates. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when the time comes to do the nasty, to, do the horizontal mambo, to fuck, it's the girl's decision. She gets to decide whether or not intercourse is going to happen. Because 9 out of 9 times, what a weird way to say that, 10 out of 10 times, men are going to say yes when offered with sex. They're going to say yes because it's biologically ingrained in us. It's natural. There's nothing wrong with that. If you feel lustful when you're looking at a hot girl, boys out there, don't feel bad. That's part of your natural biology. That's how we're alive as a species, is because you have that desire to have sex. Now, so women don't have this same thing. Women want to have sex, yes, obviously, but they're not hardwired like men are. Men just want it for the sake of having it. We are just hardwired to want it. It's great to us. It seems great. It's great at every hour, at all times, because that's how we're programmed. We're programmed to want to propagate our own DNA above all other males. And so that's why, naturally, you see men vying with other men trying to compete for the attention of women. You want to show that you're the most intelligent, the most dominant, the most funny man out there. That's, on a little tangent, that's another reason that men are funnier than women, is because women don't need to be funny to attract men. You just don't have to. We already find you very attractive. You don't need to put on airs or try and attract us under the auspice of being a funny, witty person. You don't need to try and do that to a man, because men already are attracted to you. So naturally, humor and wit don't develop as naturally in women as they do men. And that's not saying that it's that those traits are somehow tied to intelligence or something. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's more natural for men to be funny, because we're not very attractive. As Hitchens says, most men are fantastically unattractive. But we have to make ourselves worthy. Men have to prove themselves worthy of being men in order to get women's approval. And that's just the way it is. This isn't me bitching about this system or anything. That's just me laying out the facts. Women, on the other hand, get the option of picking the best male that they can find. It's the same way in the wild. They want the most dominant man. They want the man that's going to be able to provide the most thorough and complete protection of their offspring and themselves. And that's a natural desire. This is not gold digging or anything like that. That's what women are, just that's their biological imperative. They want to find a man who will protect them. And so naturally, women get approached by a lot more men than men get approached by women. And so women get the opportunity all the time to turn down suitors who they do not see as worthy. And I'm sure that most women don't see it as, as ridiculously superior. Got tied up in a word there, but they don't see it through that lens of superiority. They just see it as, oh, he's not for me, or I can do better, which men are guilty of too. I'm just saying that the best way to compare these things is think about it with a meal, okay? Now, if a man is trying to impress a woman with a meal, he has to put things together. Now, imagine that this meal is actually the culmination of all my personality traits and my physical attributes, and everything about me is in this meal, and those are translated into ingredients. So basically, as a man, I get a certain amount of ingredients to make myself presentable to this woman. So I got some peppers, I got some steak, I got some chicken, I got some awesome ingredients, and I get to make all those and try and make it look the best possible way, just right, so I can attract girls and present myself and look awesome. Now, I don't have all the ingredients necessary to rope in a 10 out of 10 girl. One of my biggest problems is I tend to be way too sarcastic with emotional things, and that leads to a lot of fighting. And so maybe I don't have enough of that ingredient. I wish I had more of that so I could throw it in there. But the point is that I have to take all of these independently unappealing variables and put them together in order to present myself as an attractive potential for mating. Women, on the other hand, don't have to make themselves into a meal like that. Think of a woman as just a Dove chocolate bar. Think of it like that. Women don't need to put anything else on or doll themselves up like that for men. The reason that women usually doll themselves up isn't because men demand it or really care that much. It's because they're doing it to compete with other women. And so men already see women as intrinsically attractive. When we see you, we don't think, what can she do for me? And of course there are situations where that happens, but for the most part, men aren't looking at women saying, what can she provide me as a benefit? And we look at women as an end in themselves, like, wow, if I could be with her, that would be so awesome. So think of it like that. Women look at men almost like an ingredient, a meal that has been made to look as fashionable as possible, almost like a peacock's feathers, whereas men look at women in a way that's like just a pure chocolate bar, just intrinsically valuable, tasty, delicious, great, melts in your hands, just all sorts of great things. So I hope this made sense to you guys, and I really tried to present this in a way that didn't make me sound like a misogynist bigot. But unfortunately, it seems as though any critique of feminists at all comes under the umbrella of misogyny, so I don't really give a fuck. If you disagree with this, leave a comment and tell me why. And if you don't, then leave a comment and tell me why. Love you.